That's James's fancy waffle for today, and that is Bartlett pear, blueberry, kiwi, persimmon, and a little cloud of coconut cream.
Across the sun, yeah.
I'm going to talk about some movies today, and this one was the best, I thought, out of the stack that I got out of the library, and I was surprised. I didn't expect to like this one at all. And then it goes from best to worst down the stack, and most of this episode of our video reviews and deck dinner that we're going to do. Well, James says he's going to talk about philosophy, but I think he's actually going to talk about Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
I brought some other stuff out here, but I think that's where this is going to end up going. That's just a hunch, because James is a big fan of Fleetwood Mac.
I'm fairly big fan.
So we'll see once we get down there.
There are people that I prefer much.
So, first, Stillwater. Matt Damon did an awesome job. I
never thought I'd
he
hear
was
you
totally
say that. The part?
deadpan, kind of. I don't know. He was very believable in the character that he was playing, and I never could have imagined that he could do that. And I don't think that anybody could have played this character better than he did. He did such a good job, and I think the story's good, and there's some artistry involved with how they told it. So,
So
I think it's definitely worth watching.
War stories?
No, I'm not going to give away what it's about, because it's something that everyone could watch and enjoy, I think. So, The Wizard of Lies. I was very surprised. I hadn't realized that things were quite as bad. I'd heard about this, you know. It's not like I've been living under a rock, but wow, what a story! And
you cannot have an economic system that runs when you got this much corruption, you know. But go ahead.
How could the government not have noticed? Honestly,
well,
what did they say? 65 billion?
I can't remember, but it was in the billions.
Like, wow, that is so shocking. How does that happen?
This is what happens when you get the Republicans, the traditional Republicans, in power. They're the party of legalized corruption. What they do is they legalize corruption, and it's never enough. Because then you get guys like Bernie Madoff.
I look at this thing, and I'm like, okay, well, how could they not have noticed, right? So, like, the people in charge of making sure that this doesn't happen. So then I think, well, maybe they're thinking, well, it created jobs, or I don't know what they're thinking, right? I'm trying to think, okay, how could this have played as...
They're getting money from Madoff. It's corruption.
I guess that's it, yeah. And anyway,
there are tons of people liking them that weren't caught.
It's an amazing story, so you should watch it. Everyone needs to watch this movie, and not just because it's an amazing story, but they did a great job on it. I remember at the time hearing about it and hearing about the sons, and I remember saying, and I definitely remember thinking that the boys must have been involved. The sons must have been involved. And I don't know what about you, if you remember that. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, on to the next one.
Anyway, the problem is you've got the fox taking care of the hen house. This is under George Bush, but it's probably going earlier.
It was going on forever, they said. It was going on for like 20 years or something.
Yeah, the system was put in place really starting with Reagan, where they started to take back the regulations.
I don't know. Businesses. I think there's just a lot of rubber stamping going on or something. I don't know what it was. But
what happened was they put regulations on business starting in with Roosevelt, going way back when. they'd noticed that a lot of the problem in stock market crash in 1929 was corruption. People get all excited about business stuff, businesses like this, and they start investing in and all that sort of stuff, and then you saw what happened. There were millionaires that were ripped off by this guy, right?
Yeah, but there were other people.
Of course, there were other people, but the whole thing is it becomes a big Ponzi scheme, the whole economic system.
Well, I know, and I can see also what he was saying, or like Robert De Niro was saying, with, puppet kind of factor, right? I could see what he was saying with, well, they have to hold some of the blame or whatever because they were greedy, right?
Oh, the people
who are investing, wanting so much. But honestly, I can see that a bit, that...
The business people who are investing who deserve to lose their millions of dollars because that's the system that they believe in, corruption. And so starting with Reagan, in particular, 80s, they just started rolling back the regulations that had been put on business to prevent stock market crashes. You notice what happened at the same time? Big stock market crash, right? The biggest since biggest meltdown in the economic system since 1929. So they'd been boasting, hey, we've deregulated to the point where it was before FDR, and then all of a sudden, it craters. You can't afford to have traditional Republicans in power. And it's even worse, of course, with Donald Trump, because he's corruption himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, Dexter, new blood. I was so happy to see Dexter come back. And then the ending, and I'm like, oh, because there's so many things this is great. I definitely enjoyed watching this. Do you notice it was at the top of the stack, right near the top? So I definitely enjoyed watching it, and I definitely will watch the next season. But there's one thing, his sister, I don't know how you felt about her in the original series.
No.
But when she died, I was like, oh, thank goodness, right? Because I don't want to have to hear her again.
Okay.
And yet she's in this, she's haunting him, and it's terrible because I don't want to have to hear her ever again. No. She was not I didn't like her as a character in the original series, and just, it was good that she was gone. And now, you have the ending, and it's not even believable. Dexter and his son are supposed to be really smart, and yet it's ridiculous the kinds of things that they do. Like the ending is just so bad.
Are you going to give it away?
I will give it away, so don't. If you want to watch this first, or just zip ahead, whatever. But what happens is the son goes. Dexter and the son, they meet. I won't give all of it away. They meet back at a place where they should not want to be meeting, because the son has he kills Dexter, and he uses the shotgun that Dexter gave him, and it's in a spot where Dexter had killed somebody that they were looking for this whole season.
Subject to the whole season.
So
it's
come
a
on.
different kind of setup.
So now, sure, Dexter's not there, but they're somehow they'd convinced themselves, oh well, if Dexter's telling his son, yeah, you just go ahead and shoot me, kind of thing, because then you'll be free of me, and then you won't have all these troubles. And it's like, oh, what? You're shooting your dad in the place where he killed someone, and with the weapon that anyway.
The Dexter did the killing.
Well, it's presumably it's the most common rifle, and that's, and they don't know who the person was that did the killing in the first place, and now the son, he's taken to public displays of aggression. So, what will be thought in the second season?
well,
I mean,
okay.
right?
Unless it's, and then I woke up thing.
Yeah.
What happened is they brought Dexter back. Dexter's maybe didn't need the money, but they
Well, he's
bribed him with
producing, so he's.
there we go.
Yeah, he's
So he doesn't want to be doing it anymore.
probably
okay?
not. Yeah.
So he'll be doing other stuff, and he'll produce it.
He might, do a guest haunting every now and then.
Yeah, something like that. So it'll be haunted.
But honestly,
what's
I'm hoping.
happening is the son is now going to be having the franchise. He's
Exactly.
going to take up from where his dad
Yeah.
took off. And what's going to happen is they're either going to say Dexter committed suicide, or else the son
Well,
figured out that he murdered
they
this
did.
guy.
Yeah, they already said that he. Well, they said that the son knew that he murdered somebody else, which he did murder that guy.
Yeah.
But so they have this story, but it's kind of ridiculous. And honestly, I'm hoping that Dexter, though he's been shot, and it looks like he's dead, I'm hoping that they bring him to the hospital and revive him. And you're wondering, oh, is he gonna live or whatever? Because honestly, how they ended it, so bad. And I was really enjoying this. I was enjoying this season more than the original up until
You stayed
that
up all
point.
night
And there
watching.
were, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I pulled an all-nighter on Dexter. So, anyway, a few things that I wasn't happy about with that. They're supposed to be really smart, yet they're making some really dumb mistakes. And sure, Dexter, he's like, oh, I'm out of shape on this or whatever kind of thing, because he hasn't been doing it for a while. But whatever. Anyway.
Something like real time.
Yeah.
How long ago did they wind up the first thing? 5 years
Yeah,
ago?
well,
10
it
years?
seems like real time, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Arsenic and Old Lace starring Cary Grant. And honestly, I didn't know if I should put this even higher in the stack because it was really good. 1944, black and white. And it's based on a play. And it's really good. It's a comedy kind of thing, but it's a dark comedy, right?
Yeah, it's very good.
And I was impressed. I was really impressed with it. I
It's
didn't
got
expect to be.
Not just Cary Grant, Peter Lorre. Who else is in it?
Oh yeah, some other good characters.
Go ahead.
The Looming Tower. Good enough series. I don't know. I don't know how you felt about it when you were overhearing this Al-Qaeda talk, but I think this is a must-watch for everyone. Whether you agree with the,
Premise?
the way that they're telling the story or whatever, it's very important.
Oh yeah, it's.
So
it
it's
seemed like there was
definitely
dysfunction between the FBI and the CIA.
Definitely.
A lot of.
And in the end, they put a lot of blame on Condi Rice, and I don't know if that's really deserved. But
I think that whole administration was dysfunctional. So
I don't know. I mean, because they had her at one point there, like when the new administration's coming in,
Yeah.
and the people who actually know something with the FBI and CIA and all that, they're trying to fill Condoleezza Rice in on, and she's been told by them, clear your morning schedule, because there's a lot of stuff you have to learn so that you can, bring it up to the president and know what you're doing, right? And so she's like, well, I didn't clear my schedule because you do not order me around. And she wants like some bullet point kind of explanation for how the foreign affairs is and everything is working without, like, how everything is going on. And it's ridiculous. She's really portrayed as not only incompetent, but
a token. Token
and a serious jerk. I mean, she's somebody who definitely has no business being in that position. So anyway, definitely worth watching.
Well, when I say token, understand I'm part African American. Okay, so don't play the race card on me, you idiots.
Gone in the Night. I liked Winona Ryder. I think I like her in, well, almost everything that she's done.
She was a child actor, like really young.
Oh, I didn't
But-
know that. But anyway.
Yeah, she was in. I'll remember it.
Oh,
this
okay.
time, so what she was in, maybe as an infant.
But this story, it starts out seeming really pretty indie, but it ends up artful. Like you see a scene through a window repeatedly, and really you don't think too much of it. But it gets you wondering, and there's a mystery involved here, and it's a good one. I didn't expect this to be as good as it was. It's very good. A man.
She was in Beetlejuice,
Yeah.
but she was in movies before that.
Yeah. A Man Called Ove. This one's subtitles, and James he's hearing it from the other room, and it's just an old man screaming all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it actually has a good story. It is long, and it's subtitles, but I made it all the way through, so it's worth it.
What language? It's in French, right?
No. Well, English, French, and Swedish subtitles.
Okay.
It's in Swedish.
It's Swedish. I just heard a lot of screaming. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably
it's
said
very good.
Ova or something like that.
I don't know.
It might be the Swedish version of the German Uwe.
Sinister. Now, this movie, I had to actually turn it off at 23 minutes into the movie because I was so scared I couldn't watch it. I had to put on a comedy. This one. So, that having been said, the makeup and all that, it's a lot of well done smoke and mirrors because the makeup's not great, and so they're relying on the camera, the acting, and there's a good mystery here too, and you're honestly so scared you might not figure it out even though it's obvious. When I was little, it reminded me of when I used to watch things like Poltergeist and the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff when I was a little kid. And I suppose my family probably thought I was creepy because I'd watched that. I was 10 years old and watching this stuff. And but the thing is we would get the movies and I would just watch them over and over and over, so I wasn't scared of the stuff anymore, because I realized at that point that the way I was raised, I wasn't going to fit into society. My family had raised me, my dad had raised me Christian, and I don't know, I like to wear things like big long Hutterite skirts and stuff like that when I was a little kid. Yeah, and anyway, that's what I was doing, and now I understand it, and I'm great. So whatever, I'm still scared by stuff like this, no matter how many times I watched stuff like that when I was a little kid. I'm still scared of this, and wow, they did a good job scaring people with not a lot to really authentically scare people with. The makeup, like I said, kind of junky, and the story, there's a mystery, but you should be able to get it fairly quickly. I mean, there's a bit of a misdirect with who you think will be the killer. I shouldn't say anymore. But it should be obvious. At one point, it should be obvious where this is going to go. So anyway, definitely worth watching if you like to be scared every now and then, because that one will scare you. I do until I don't. It was good enough. Kind of a
You fell asleep during
light
it.
comedy for sure. I did. I do a lot during movies, but yeah, it's not one that'll make you laugh. You know, light romantic comedies, do they ever really make you laugh? Anyway, it's okay. Fleetwood Mac video biography. James is going to talk about this one.
Yeah.
I got
you know.
I put it on, and then I got home and he was listening to Fleetwood Mac album, so he was very happy having
It's
watched
their
this.
classic one, the one that I like the best. Like that. So, again, they're not my favorite group, but I'm going to say this. There's a song called Songbird. Christine Perfect. She married John McVie, the bass player in the group. well before the main players got involved with the group, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. And she married John McVie, the bass player of the group. So she'd been with the group for a long time. In many ways, she was pivotal to the group as the rhythm section. The rhythm section is the only thing that tied the weird permutations of this group together. Went back to 1967. And originally they were just kind of basically a blues band. Blues copies like Shake Your Money Maker and all this sort of stuff. Went through a lot of personnel, a lot of changes. But she came along, she was a piano player, and she kind of changed the group in a new and frankly better direction. And I think it gave them the strength to get hold of Buckingham and Nicks. It's amazing Buckingham and Nicks were just scraping around a studio, trying to make it. They had so much talent, they had so much looks and stuff like that. But there they were, and they just fell into Fleetwood Mac's laps. So Christine McVie died just the other day, maybe a week ago or something like that. She's probably getting up to around 80. I think she was probably a lifelong smoker. There are pictures of her smoking, so maybe she gave it up, but maybe died a little bit sooner than she should have. And she's one of my two favorite people in the group. And Stevie Nicks is not the other one, it's Lindsey Buckingham, the other one. So I'm going to kind of be reciting this to Christine McVie. She's not my favorite out there, but some of the things she did were kind of like jewels, like Hold On To Me, or whatever it's called. Songbird is the one I'm going to recite a little bit of. For you, the sun will be shining. Well, for you, there'll be no more crying. For you, the sun will be shining. It's not shining now. But I feel that when I'm with you, by listening to you, it's all right. You know it's right. And the songbirds are singing like they know the score. And I'm talking about your music. I love you, I love you, I love you, like never before. Thank you, Christine McVie. Christine Perfect. I like to think of you as that. Some of the songs you put together, I don't really bother listening to the lyrics that much, although I do like that song, the line, the songbirds are singing like they know the score, like the musical score. That's just an isolated sort of wonderful line. She generally wasn't a great lyricist, but she wrote these beautiful little pop songs every so occasionally and stuff like that. And along with Lindsey Buckingham, she was the strength of this group. And so this, I'll get to I kind of reviewed Christine McVie's life. Very short, hopefully very sweet. Talking about the review. I think she had a tough life and things like that. She tended to go for guys who were had a little trouble with the chemicals. John McVie had a little trouble with the bottle, and she later got involved with a guy who had trouble with pretty well anything that was psychoactive. The guy's name was Dennis Wilson, who was formerly in the Beach Boys, and he died in something like the mid 80s. But this is a pretty good little summary of the first kind of like half of the Fleetwood Mac's career. It ends basically 1979 or something like that, whenever they put Tusk out, and they barely touched on Tusk. So it doesn't even make it into the 80s, and the group was still kind of like touring up until about 2019 or something like that. So it's actually less than half of the group's history. But it's the important part, and it does cover rumors. It covers pretty well all of their albums. It has a couple of people who were in the group, but that is pretty well every other guy in the British Isles. They ran through so many changes of personnel and stuff like that. I don't, then they've got some rock and roll reviewers, and it's nice to see. I've only seen that one picture of John Ned Mendelsohn, who used to be he's called John Mendelsohn. I was going to the Ned. And he used to be my favorite rock and roll reviewer. Yeah, I actually like some rock and roll reviewers, and not Lester Bangs. He's the one guy people know about. And John Ned Mendelsohn was a little bit catty and stuff like that. He was saying that there was Jeremy Spencer in the group was about 3 foot high. And then he's talking about Stevie Nicks, and he's saying, hey, here's this doe-eyed blonde and stuff like that. With this kind of ragged voice. I never thought of it as being ragged. But then he says she's wearing these big boots on stage because she again was 3 foot high. He was always a little catty guy. My favorite review was something like Led Zeppelin 1. Yeah, going back to about 1968. He says, Jimmy Page, it's something like strains notes out of his guitar. You get the impression that he could play guitar with only with one hand tied behind his back, which is, Jimi Hendrix developed the style of tapping on way back when. There's a concert of him. So Eddie Van Halen's famous for doing it, but there's one concert where they're going, how is he playing that? Jimi Hendrix invented tapping on, like maybe 10 years before Eddie Van Halen did. But and then going back to John Ned Mendelssohn's review of Led Zeppelin, I believe it was one. He says Robert Plant sings notes only dogs can hear. He was a total trash job on Led Zeppelin. I think John Ned Mendelssohn eventually wrote for Cream. Maybe he was the editor of that magazine. Cream was named after the prototype for Led Zeppelin, Cream, and maybe John Ned Mendelsohn preferred Cream. But he's the kind of guy actually preferred the Kinks. He preferred British, more pop type of stuff. He actually had a little group. I'd like to hear it. It's called Christopher Milk. It never made it. Kind of sad. But at any rate, one of the reviewers is saying, the song that I like listening to, it makes it into my top 100 songs by Fleetwood Mac. Is called Go Your Own Way. It's on Rumors, their classic album. It is for me, classic Fleetwood Mac song. Lindsey Buckingham. He is the real, not the heart or the backbone of the group. The backbone's kind of the rhythm section. The heart's Christine McVie. The brain of the group is Lindsey Buckingham. So one of the reviewers is talking about Go Your Own Way, and he says, the thing that really makes that track is the rhythm section. And he says it just keeps building and building. He says there's the guitar solo. It's simple. Anyone can play it. And I'm going, yeah. It's not about playing. It's about composing. That's what Lindsey Buckingham is about. He's the guitarist. So he says it keeps building and building and building. You listen to that track and you will hear maybe the best composed guitar soloing ever in rock and roll. You listen to Lindsey Buckingham, they're going, is it addressed to Stevie Nicks? And I'm going, do you have to ask the question? They'd just broken up. Go your own way, he's telling her. And you can see they're playing. They should have fired Stevie Nicks for the group.